Friends, my name is Jesse. Welcome back as always to Male Nurse Mentor. You just graduated, passed your NCLEX, got that first nursing job. You're about to start your first day, enter officially the workforce as a new grad nurse. What can you expect? I'll be talking about 3 of the hardest parts in this video today. Let's go. So friends, before we begin, I just want to explain the purpose of this video in particular. This video I think is pretty important. I wish it's something that somebody would have told me as I entered the workforce for the first time as a new grad nurse. These are just friction points, a couple pain points that you'll be going through, some adversity, some normalization, right, as you get into this workforce for the first time as a new grad nurse full time. There are some barriers you're gonna have to overcome. There's gonna be some moments that are gonna test you in a different way than maybe you first thought of. So I got 3 in this video, and they'll be in chronological order. We'll start with 3, 2, and then I'll give you at the end what I think is the hardest part of being a new grad nurse entering the workforce for the very first time. So number 3, friends, this is one that I think is pretty important, and it's gonna be one that you're gonna have to realize, whether it's on your own, but here I am kind of telling you, and it is dealing with incompetence. Unfortunately, as a new grad nurse, you're gonna go into the workforce feeling unprepared. And trust me, you're gonna feel it. But that part is normal. One thing that I later realized is, the nursing program, yes, you spent 2.5 years there, 2 years for some of you, but the point of that program was to learn how to think like a nurse, but ultimately learn how to pass the NCLEX. The real world, once you enter into the actual workforce as a new grad nurse, that is when you're gonna learn to be an actual nurse on the floor. And let me explain. As a nursing student, you were trying to find all these opportunities, right? Trying to practice all the skills that you can, but maybe you don't feel like you were able to practice them enough. Again, that's normal. You're gonna feel this way. I wasn't able to do certain skills. I wasn't able to practice everything I wanted to. I wasn't able to get all the exposure that I needed, right? Clinical rotations were pretty challenging. Sometimes you just wanted to show up, do your hours, and kind of get that out the way and go do your homework, right? That's kind of my mindset. I can admit to that. So maybe you didn't get fully exposed. Maybe you didn't get all that, hands-on training and all that hands-on exposure, observation, shadowing that you wish you could have had. So maybe here you are now going into the workforce, not feeling prepared. Well, the good thing is they do have new grad programs, right, that really walk you in. And otherwise, you just go through orientation when you get hired, at your first nursing job. You go through orientation, you meet with the nurse educator, they'll onboard you, and then you'll go about your way. But really, where the real learning happens is you kind of scraping your knees a little bit, being a new nurse on the floor. That is when you really start to learn. The fortunate part about new grad programs is they really take it really slow with you, right? They give you a couple weeks with the preceptor, you're eventually on your own, you still have someone to kind of bounce ideas off of. So if you get that experience, it'll be even easier. But for a lot of us, I know for me, my very first job was in a county jail, and it's very autonomous, so I scraped my knees, right? For some people going into a hospital where maybe they don't have that benefit of having a new grad program, right, that's extensive and all that, you will also scrape your knees. But just understand, dealing with this feeling like you're not ready, you're not prepared to be a new nurse out on the floor, having people's lives, holding that responsibility right in your hands, and not feeling competent to be able to handle that at first is normal. Let me be here to tell you it is normal. It does get better. It is a learning curve. You're gonna scrape your knees. It's just gonna happen. So let me tell you here, right now in this space, it's normal. You will be okay. It's real. It's a real feeling. You're gonna feel this way. That's why I think this is important for me to mention here at number 3. So the second hardest thing, friends, that I found entering as a new grad nurse into the workforce for the first time was always finding that balance between work and life. I still to this day struggle. If you look at people around you, other adults, right? Let's say you're younger in your 20s, you look at people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, everyone struggles with this part. But why am I mentioning it here? I'm mentioning it here because as a new grad nurse, you're gonna wanna hit the floor running. You're gonna wanna be in full stride, but the reality is you're not gonna be able to do that. You're new to everything. You're new to the workforce, you're new to the floor, new job, new grad nurse. You don't know if you have all the knowledge you need, right? We were just saying you're dealing with a certain level of incompetence, right? Not feeling fully prepared for the workforce to work as a nurse. You're dealing with all these things. And on top of that, you're dealing with the temptation of, oh, I got my first job, I want to make money, so you start working overtime. You start not having the time to fully take care of yourself, right? Because you're stressed about your day. You just got home from your very long day, right? Trying to process all that, and you got 3 12s or 5 8-hour shifts, right? There's not much time. Work-life balance is very difficult, so understand you don't have to have this dialed in from the start. If I had to be honest with you, I'm about to be 5 years into the workforce. I wasn't fully dialing in. I'm not even dialed in now. I feel like I'm getting there, but I would say I'm not fully there because it's a journey. But I didn't start to begin dialing in my work-life balance until maybe 2 years into the workforce, I would say. That's when I started to really just slow down, try to plan vacations, eat better, build myself up, focus on my relationships, focus on personal development. But it took a good solid 2 years. And oftentimes that could be because you're switching jobs after your first year. So you kind of have to recalibrate, rebalance yourself. Maybe you're past the overtime wave, right? Working all that overtime, trying to get all that money. And maybe you're also past that point where maybe you feel like making an impression at work isn't as important to you as it was before, right? We all are at different points in our career. Some of us go into our career already knowing we want to do something else, right? Maybe you start your nursing career and you know you don't want to stop as an RN, right? Maybe you want to go to be an NP, so your foot is still on the gas, right? Work-life balance is going to be compromised, right? Maybe you're trying to get into CRNA school, foot's on the gas again. It's kind of hard to balance your work life, right? Maybe you also right out of school. Maybe you're in a relationship, trying to take that next step. There's so many things going on. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as a new grad nurse entering the workforce for the very first time, your work-life balance is going to be unbalanced, and that's going to be normal. So just be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, be mindful that this is what you're going through, right? These growing pains. You're learning to be a nurse, you're learning all these things about yourself, entering the workforce for the very first time. Be patient with yourself, be kind. That is something that I wish someone would have told me. For me, going into the workforce for the very first time as a new grad nurse. And now for number 1. This is one that maybe you may not see coming. When I picture myself as being a male nurse mentor, this is the mentor part to my name. This number 1, it's not just for nursing in general. It's for everybody, any student entering the workforce for the very first time. So the number 1 thing that I think is the hardest part for a new grad nurse entering the workforce is this idea of entering the workforce. And let me explain. So friends, we all have to enter the workforce at some point. The workforce is what we consider to be this 9 to 5, this rat race. For nurses, oftentimes it's 3 12s, right? Not even the 9 to 5. But it's this idea, right? And I'll break it down to you very simply. It is this idea of knowing that you're gonna have to work the rest of your life until you can afford not to work anymore. So that is life, right? It's this idea that you're a cog in a machine. You have a purpose though, right? You chose to be a nurse for a reason. It's a very solid career path. You start here and who knows where you can end up, right? Along this path of being a nurse, right? Maybe you start as a general med-surg nurse and eventually you work your way up to be a director, right? You start here, you go there. But the point to this all is that you are now in the workforce. You now have to digest and process this concept that you're working, exchanging your time for money. And your work-life balance doesn't really matter. Whether you feel ready for the job doesn't really matter. You're now here working as a nurse and you gotta survive, you gotta make money. If you don't go to work, you don't make money. If you don't make money, you can't survive in this life. That is what I'm trying to explain as being the hardest part of being a new grad nurse entering the workforce for the very first time. And like I said, this goes across the board for anybody, any student going into the workforce. It's realizing that your life is your responsibility. How you want to live, when you want to retire, how much you want to succeed. All of this is eventually going to be your responsibility. One thing that I remember is as a student, I didn't feel this pressure, I guess I could say. I always felt like I had a safety net. Oh, I'm in school, I don't need to make money yet. I'm in school, I'm cool right now. I don't have to worry about all these adult responsibilities. The reality is when you enter the workforce, the age in which you retire, how much overtime you do, if you burn out, when you call a sick day, how it is that you navigate this life, the outcome to your life, all of these things are going to be your responsibility. So it's a certain weight, it's a certain pressure that you're going to feel. And oftentimes as a student, as a nursing student, you don't feel this pressure. It's when you enter the workforce for the very first time as a new grad nurse at your first job where you start to realize, man, I am going to do this for the rest of my life until I can afford not to do it anymore. And either I stay on the floor my whole career, or I go into management, right? Or I go try to work from home. Your career path is going to be your responsibility, right? How much money you want to make in this life, how you spend it, how you save it, what you buy, all that is going to be your responsibility. It's just a certain weight, and I think it's important to bring this to attention, because I wish someone would have told me that this is a hard transition when you very first start. It's going to feel odd, it's going to feel strange. There's a learning curve, a learning period. I would even say a level of acceptance to this pressure. I'm pretty used to it now. I'm going to be 5 years into the workforce. But at the start, even now, every once in a while, it pops in my mind like, I'm going to be doing this until I can afford not to do it anymore. And it's a hard pill to swallow. That's why I'm letting you know now, something to expect. That way eventually you can accept that this is a reality of being a new grad nurse entering the workforce for the very first time. And hopefully that last one wasn't too dark. That is the mentor part of my name, friends. I'm just trying to be real and be honest and let you guys know that is something that you're going to have to eventually realize and feel for yourself. But that is 3, friends. That are the 3 hardest parts that I felt going to be a new grad nurse, entering the workforce, starting my career for the very first time. As always, friends, if you have any questions, you could find me on Instagram, send me a DM. Some of you guys do that every now and again, and I always find it really neat. Your guys' questions are really great. I wish everybody well on your path. I'll continue to be here, just trying to find ways to add value. Find me, friends. You know where to now. I'll see you on the next one. And as always, take care.